da di da da di da da di da di da da di da. What do you hear over the air? CQ serenade. So you don't know just what it means. Dust your shoes off, shake out your jeans. Get on your feet, jump to the beat of CQ serenade.
Hello, KJ6YXI here with a short video on my HF mobile installation. I'm going to show you how I installed my ICOM 7000 into my 2015 Ford 250 diesel Super Duty, along with the Alpine screwdriver antenna. Now let's go to the back and let's take a look at what I actually installed. Whiskey 6 NXS Hank, who's a local ham operator and is also a professional installer of radio communications for UHF, VHF, and HF. He installs communication systems for emergency first responders, and Hank did most of the wiring, and I assisted with the layout and how I wanted it actually in the vehicle and all the bonding. So let's take a look here at the actual antenna installation for a moment. This is the Alpine screwdriver antenna, KA6ELK, West Ogilvy. It's the model 100 BP, powder coated in black with the Lexan cover. It has a 72-inch whip with a MFJ quick disconnect. And these covers are made from the same material that the law enforcement riot shields are made of. So you know they're strong and tough and made to last. Alpine Antenna is a local shop here in San Diego County, and that's their number information that you can contact them at. Very handsome looking antenna, and it matches the color theme of the truck, which is black and stock looking. What we have here is a steel mounting bracket fabricated by my good friend Steve, Whiskey 6 Sugar Mike Kilo. He designed it so it would fit the contour of the bed and welded a lower flat base so when it sat on the bed it had a support that wouldn't cut into the bed. The mount sits on the bed of the truck flush, and I was able to mount it to the existing tie downs that existed in the truck. I later had my good friends at Linex spray the bracket to match the truck bed liner. I then mounted a marine stainless steel antenna mount to fit. The antenna mount has a tilt over option that allows me to tilt the screwdriver into the bed of the truck when I'm not using the antenna. The antenna hides right inside the bed of the truck, and when I have the bed cover closed, you can't even tell that I have an antenna. You can see that all the wiring is neatly tucked away in split tubing. The split tubing and wiring conveniently goes into a hole that existed in the bed of the truck. I'm using 1-inch braided strap to mount to the stainless steel mount inside of shrink tubing, which goes down below to the frame. Some of you may ask, what's with the big block on the screwdriver? The block is made from plastic that I picked up at a local plastic supply house, and I fabricated it to fit around the antenna to give some side support to the antenna so it wouldn't sway so much while I was going down the road. Again, I used stainless steel bolts, nuts, and finishing caps throughout to give it that extra finished look. So let's go down below and check out the cable and bonding. So here we are below the cab of the truck, directly below the tailgate area. I use a strand of 75 feet of LMR 240 coax. Whatever I didn't use in the truck, I coiled it up and tied it neatly underneath the bed of the truck, and I tied it by the frame. As you can see here, I use several toroids and plastic zip ties to keep everything in place. Some hams will criticize that I have unnecessarily used a large amount of coax and I only coiled it up, but after discussing with several hams and on a good authority, this is a good practice for using when trying to work 40 and 80 meters. It also helps with keeping a balanced SWR. So you can see the grounding strap of shrink tubing coming in, and I bolted it to the bed of the cab, continuing to the frame of the chassis. Let's take a look at some bonding I did. I used 1-inch braided strap, crimped and soldered at both ends. I used stainless steel self-tapping screws, and I lightly etched the surface to make a good contact between the cab of the truck and and the truck bed. I did this on both sides of the vehicle to ensure that it was well bonded. As we take a look down toward the exhaust, you can see that I also bonded the exhaust to the frame. Again, I used 1-inch braided strap, and I went directly from the frame of the vehicle to the exhaust flange. Maintaining a good contact is extremely important for grounding purposes. I bonded the exhaust in a total of 3 areas, and in this view you can see how I used an exhaust clamp to bond the exhaust to the frame and to the actual exhaust system. It's a little difficult to see, but trust me, it was even more challenging to get everything in there and strap it all down out of view. As I have said before, my intention was to try to keep this as neat as possible and looking as factory as possible. So let's take a look at the massive engine compartment that this diesel offers. The engine is rated at 440 horsepower with over 860 foot-pounds of torque. So you can imagine the size of this beast. It has dual batteries and an ungodly amount of computers and sensors that give off plenty of hash and magnetic noise. Hank brought in a direct line from the radio to the battery in order to minimize the engine noise. This is important because if you are using the existing wiring to tap off for your power, you may subject yourself to all the electrical noise that you find in your engine and generating it through the harness. Speaking of noise, this presented a special challenge for me with the massive amount of electronics that these newer all-power vehicles have. A good friend of mine, Bob Brem, aka Captain Bob, Alpha Kilo 6 Romeo from Palomar Engineering, assisted me with all the snap-on ferrites that I put in place. I placed several large snap-on ferrites on the wiring harness associated with the alternator, as well as a fuel pump harness and any visible computers under the cab. Here in the engine compartment, at the ECC, the electronic computer control, I also placed several large snap-on ferrites. There's even another one further down below, but it was difficult to get to. You can also see that I bonded the hood of the cab. Again, I was trying to keep everything neat and stock looking. Not one thing worked on its own, but all the bonding and all the ferrites all helped to minimize the overall engine noise. So let's go inside and look at the actual radio install. This is the vantage point from the rear seat. You can see the steering wheel, instrument cluster, the overall view of the dash, and where I installed the ICOM radio, which I placed directly underneath the forward navigation screen, the radio, and center console. I think I achieved my goal by keeping the install clean and neat, not causing it to be an eyesore, or something that doesn't flow with the stock look of the cab. The cup holders are not compromised, and the overall look looks clean and neat. Remember, my intention is to try and maintain a factory look. If you look up, you can see my other installation of my Yaesu FTM 400. Again, I try to maintain the flow of the console to keep with the rest of the cab look. As you look down toward the radio, you can see that I used the ICOM mobile separation kit, but I also fabricated a mount so that it would fit directly underneath the auxiliary switches and the brake controller so as not to cause any problems with activating or using them in any way. The radio is conveniently located where I can have access to it. Turning the knob and the volume switch is no problem whatsoever from the driver's seat. This is a view of the driver's seat. You can see that I have the microphones and speakers. They're mounted underneath the driver's side seat. I mounted a West Mountain powered speaker to amplify the radio sound and help overcome some of the potential road noise. This is an excellent speaker which allows for great volume control. The microphones for both the radios are mounted with magnetic backings. They're conveniently located by my right leg for quick access. All the microphones are neatly tucked away in the cords that are not very noticeable whatsoever. So let's take a look at where the radio is actually installed. The Ford F-250 has a very large cab, thus a very large center console. This provided me with the space necessary to hide my radio and additional items. And I still have access to the upper tray and all my personal items. Inside, the wiring has not yet been organized, but we're working on it. As you can see, I have a west mount antenna tuner. Underneath that is the controller, and I have the actual radio below that. The white tube is the MFJ 915 choke tube RF isolator. The PowerWorks distribution block allows me for additional 12-volt poles. And on the back wall, you can see my Yaesu FTM 400. And this blue box is a Newmar 25 amp DC filter to help reduce line noise. Despite looking a little cluttered, everything is in its actual place and out of the way. This next view allows me to look directly down at the antenna tuner and operate the screwdriver in either a manual mode or automatic mode. A neat trick that Hank came up with was the air circulation for heat distribution of the radios. He tapped 2 holes into the rear vent wall, and voila, I have air conditioning into the console straight inside, keeping the radios nice and cool. So finally, let's see how this all works together. Let's make a few contacts.
Okay, Kilo Juliet 6 Yankee X-Ray India Mobile in San Diego. From K2GAB, bring the antenna down a little bit from Minnesota to the west coast. My name is Ted Tango Echo Delta, and I'm located in northwest Connecticut, and you have a great signal from the mobile there in San Diego. KJ6YXI Mobile from K2GAB.
Roger that, K2GAB. You're about a 5'9", 5'7", 5'9", and great signal into San Diego. Thank you very much with the, I believe you said it was 5'7" for you on our signal report. We'll double check that with you. We're running a mobile here, and we're actually doing a YouTube video. And we wanted to see if we get a contact with it so we can show the new installation of an ICOM 7000 with a screwdriver antenna by Alpine Antennas, QSL?
Yeah, QSL is the name, Miguel.
Roger that. Name is Miguel. Mike, India Golf, Uniform Echo Lima. You got it, Ted.
Okay, Miguel, I don't know if you want to start the YouTube video, but Kilo Juliet 6 Yankee X-Ray India from K2 Golf Alpha Victor K2GAB in Connecticut. Good signal. I don't think I gave you a report yet, but I'm giving it now. It's 5 and 7. 5 and 7. A lot of QSB, but you sound as loud as the fixed stations I talked to just recently in Georgia and in Minnesota. So making a good transcontinental trip from the San Diego area to northwest Connecticut right now. Again, 5 and 7, and I've got an ICOM 7000 myself, and I use it mobile also in my pickup truck. So anyway, good signal there from the 7000 with the screwdriver antenna from Alpine. Now back to KJ6YXI from K2GAV.
Roger that, Ted, K2GAV. Thank you very much. Wonderful signal. I tell you, you're doing a great job into here. And we just finished the installation, and we wanted to see how well we were getting out and kind of demonstrate it with a short little video to the folks out there. Back to you, Ted. Kilo 2, Golf Alpha Victor. This is Kilo Juliet 6, Yankee X-Ray India, Stroke Mobile.
Okay, Miguel, now you're hitting S9 here, even getting stronger. And it looks like you've activated some national parks. I've been doing that quite a bit. Not so much activating. I did one of those, but a lot of chasing here on this end. K2GAB, yeah, you came up to S9 here. The rig I'm using here at home is the Kenwood TS990, running together with a Heathkit SB1000, and currently about 823 watts emitted from a stepper antenna, 3-element stepper that is 70 feet in the air, and our antenna ends up being 1,040 feet above sea level because we're up in the northwest part of Connecticut. That's got some small hills and, well, we like to call them mountains here, the Berkshire Mountains. Sure. 50 degrees right now. It's dark outside, and 97% humidity. We're finally getting some rain, much needed here. It's been a very dry and hot summer, Miguel. Back to you, KJ6YXI Mobile from K2GAV.
Roger that, Ted, K2GAV. Thank you very much for the report.
Currently, the weather here is somewhere in the mid-90s. It's been pretty hot lately and dry, but that's par for the course here in San Diego, California. The weather's been getting pretty warm with the Santa Anas. Great signal. We won't keep it. We want to keep the video somewhat short, but all the best to you. Thank you very much for picking us up from Connecticut. K2, George Apple Victor. This is Kilo Juliet 6, Yankee X-Ray India, Stroke Mobile 73, and we'll let you tie it up.
Okay, Miguel. Okay, no problem. I just checked my list here of the 5 places that you activated out there, and I've got all 5 of those confirmed already. I'm at 332 confirmed at this point, and seeing how far we can get. The phone's ringing. Got to run. 73 is KG6YXI Mobile from K2GAV. Bye-bye.
73, my friend. All the best.
Well, there you have it, folks. My installation and setup with an excellent QSO contact from San Diego, California to Northwest Connecticut. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave me one. Again, a thanks to all who helped with the design and installation, and also to my good friends at HRO. Remember, all the best, take care, and God bless America.